showed Daniel a great and mighty vision. And we know that when we study this out, we can compare it to the vision that God gave John on the Isle of Patmos in the book of Revelations chapter 1. And we can do a comparison. I sort of looked at that, and there's some of the words may be a little different from the King James Version and the New King James Version, but they are basically the same. And so when we look at this, when we see this glorious man that Daniel saw, it was just awesome in that Daniel had companions with him, evidently. He's talked about the men who were with him. And I'm sure Daniel, being a man of distinction there in Babylon, was not allowed to just wander about by himself. And nor should God's leaders be alone. So, but Daniel said he saw this vision of this glorious man, but the men who were with him didn't see the vision. But although, and I thought it was so remarkable that although they did not see the vision, it had an effect upon them. It said in verse 7, the great terror fell upon them, so that they fled and hid themselves. And so Daniel was left alone with this vision. So when I was studying this, I was reminded of the Apostle Paul when he was using his name Saul in Acts chapter 9 as he went about persecuting the Christians, and that he was on his way to Damascus to just wreak havoc in the church. We want to look at that for a minute and be reminded of what Saul saw as he was the vision that the Lord gave him. It says that in Acts chapter 9, said that then Saul, still breathing threats and murder against the disciples of the Lord, went to the high priest and asked letters from him to the synagogues of Damascus, so that he found anyone who were of the way, this is what they called Christians at first, whether men or women, he might bring them bound to Jerusalem. As he journeyed, he came near Damascus, and suddenly a light shone around him from heaven. Then he fell to the ground and heard a voice saying to him, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? And he said, who are you, Lord? Then the Lord said, I am Jesus whom you are persecuting. It is hard for you to kick against the goads. So he trembled and started and said, Lord, what do you want me to do? Then the Lord said to him, arise and go into the city, and you will be told what you must do. In verse 7 of that 9th chapter of the book of Acts says, and the men who journeyed with him stood speechless, hearing a voice, but seeing no one. Now, in Daniel chapter 10, he said that he alone saw the vision, for the men who were with me did not see the vision, but a great terror fell upon them, so that they fled to hide themselves. And it reminds us that God shows his purpose to whomever he chooses, and to those who are crying out to the Lord and want to know his purpose. And it shows that God is faithful to show us when we are before the Lord in fasting and prayer and asking the Lord to show us the way that he would have us to go, he is faithful to do so. And sometimes he does so in dramatic ways, even as when he make his purposes known, as in this 10th chapter of Daniel, he's making Daniel know his purposes, his plans, the things that are yet to come. He's preparing Daniel, his chosen warrior. And as in the book of Acts in chapter 9, Saul didn't know it at the time, but he was a chosen vessel for the Lord. The Lord was going to work his purpose out in Saul.